Is the concept of Western civilization relevant today? My name is Justin Bates, and in this video we're going to briefly introduce why a serious study and practical understanding of Western civilization is not only relevant, but absolutely necessary. If we hope to preserve for subsequent generations both the core characteristics of Western civilization as well as the foundational liberties we inherited from our ancestors, we must understand what they are, how they are in danger, and what we can do to preserve them. So, what are the core characteristics of Western civilization? The liberty that we enjoy, both in the United States of America and in other parts of the world, stems largely from early Western civilization, including the Greek, Roman, and early Anglo-Saxon societies. In his article, What Exactly is the West?, Bradley Berzer argues that, quote, it was uniquely in the West that philosophy, the love of wisdom, and the search for universal principles arose, close quote, which love of those principles facilitated the understanding that all people have inherent value and should be treated with dignity. This foundational belief would develop into certain liberties that would help to underscore the inherent value of all citizens. You'll note that I use the word liberty as opposed to freedom, intentionally. As Liberty University's Dr. Carey Roberts has explained, the term liberty derives from the Mediterranean area, and its Latin etymology is associated with a set of political ideas, namely rights and associated duties. Daniel Hannan, in his delightful book, Inventing Freedom, describes these core characteristics of Western civilization that resulted from that philosophy. Those core characteristics are, number one, the rule of law, by which he means that all citizens, including the rulers, are subject to the law of the land. Quote, not the king's law, not God's law, but the law of the land. Close quote. Personal liberty. Which he describes as freedom to say what you like, to assemble in any configuration you choose with your fellow citizens, to buy and sell without hindrance, to dispose as you wish of your assets, to work for whom you please, close quote. And lastly, the third element that's really important is representative government. In essence, that laws, including taxes, should only be passed by elected representatives who are answerable to their constituents. Case in point, when the English king Ethelred tried to impose excessive taxes on his people in the year 1014, the Witan, an early form of representative government, forced the king to abide by their conditions if he wanted to continue as their king. Another example includes the U.S. presidential impeachment process, which has occurred several times over the last 50 years. The purpose of this and other similar processes is to hold elected representatives accountable for their actions, and it has its foundations in early Western civilization. Now, what's the danger, okay? The danger is that the loss of this foundation could diminish current liberty. Robert Royal describes how, quote, within the West, technological ideology has come to separate us from the deeper bases of our culture. Human beings are regarded as a collection of chemical reactions resulting in certain impulses, with little support of the old Aristotelian belief that we are spiritual beings who can rule ourselves. The consequences for relationships between men, women, families, children, and the social order have been devastating. He continues, without that Western notion of human nature, none of the rest will really matter. Close quote. Moreover, there is a growing trend of criticism and distaste for the founding philosophies of Western civilization, including those of Aristotle, Plato, and even Locke, as nothing more than selfish principles from an evil white male hegemony. The prevalent attitude of throwing out everything they taught because of perceived flaws in their societies or individual character, when viewed from a modern perspective, is damaging the foundations of Western philosophy on which our liberties are based. Lastly, what can we do to preserve Western civilization and its associated liberty? While the modern Western world has become accustomed to liberties established in, among other places, the U.S. Constitution, maintaining them in perpetuity is by no means guaranteed. Kwame Appiah noted that, quote, values aren't a birthright. You need to keep caring about them. They are only ours if we care about them. A culture of liberty, tolerance, and rational inquiry, these values represent choices to make, not tracks laid down by a Western destiny, close quote. So what do we do about it? I agree with Alexander Rosenthal Pubol, who counseled that returning to our roots by, quote, excavating the classical conception of freedom will be helpful, close quote, in our efforts to steer the current path of Western civilization. Lastly, just as the triumph of Western values and liberties during the wars of the 21st century was not guaranteed, so too their ongoing preservation has yet to be determined. If we appreciate the liberty and civilization that have been handed down to us and hope to carry that torch forward to the next generation, it's time to get off the social sidelines, research our history, and engage in the socio-political arena. Thank you.